you will need to engage that will allow us to turn our cameras back on. And somewhere in there, I think our cameras have been turned off, or at least mine has.
Well, they're not on because you're not, I promoted you to panelist. Okay, I need to turn on each person's camera in the panelist section. Let's see.
Jennifer, this is Louisa.
Yeah.
So on the attendee list, if you look all the way at the bottom, there are 3 dots. If you click on the 3 dots, it'll allow you to enable camera for all panelists.
Thank you, Louisa.
Thank you. I'm looking for it. Under attendees or panelists?
I think it's under panelists.
Okay, under panelists, the choices I have, oh, let's see, gallery view.
No, all the way at the bottom, there are 3 little dots.
Yeah, I clicked those.
Mm-hmm.
The choices are ask all to unmute, mute panelists on entry, allow panelists to unmute themselves, allow panelists to rename themselves, play sound, lock webinar, allow panelists to start video. There we go.
Yes.
Thank you. Dag, you're muted. Oh, okay.
What was it? I looked at my clock when we went offline, so that's.
I wrote that.
We're getting better at this. That was only about 14 minutes. I think we can continue to work on our security protocols to make sure that it doesn't happen to begin with, but my apologies to everyone.
Dag, this is Kelly. BBS dealt with this issue months ago, and I can put you in touch with our chair. We implemented some new safety procedures for our meetings.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
dag.mcleod@calbard.ca.gov.
Understood.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had emailed it to you because I haven't had that happen before, and I was like, whoa, look at this. You know, like, what do I do? So I'm so glad that Dag was here and that Louisa was able to help us.
Yes, thank goodness we were able to get back and.
Yeah. And Michelle, thanks for passing the info on, because I was talking to Dag and Louisa saying, oh, there's those people from the other bar and I have no idea how to get in touch with them.
Good. Well, hopefully they made it back. It doesn't, unless I can't see everybody, it doesn't look like all the committee members have made it back.
All right, I think we're missing what, Phil and Martin?
Stephanie, Phil, and Martin.
Oh yeah, Stephanie also.
I will
I see Stephanie as an attendee.
Oh, let's see.
There's somebody named Henrik Nelson as an attendee.
He's from the other bar, I think.
Oh,
maybe. I could be wrong.
That's not one of the names that they told me from the other bars coming, but.
So the attendees can just, I mean, if we don't know who they are, they should just remain attendees, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's open to the public. I'm going to mute myself because Phil is calling me.
Okay, Greg Dorst just showed up on the attendee list.
Okay, so when it's time for the other bar stuff, we can elevate them, is the word. Promote them.
I thought I saw Stephanie. Now she's gone again.
Jennifer, you're on mute.
I think she was talking on the phone to Phil or something.
Oh.
Sorry, I had muted myself because Phil had Skyped me and I didn't think that you all wanted to hear my Skype conversation with Phil Spiegel. And I had Stephanie as an attendee, but then I was trying to promote her to a panelist and then she disappeared. So I'll email her and ask her to try again.
And I think we're also missing Martin.
Okay, I just emailed both of them the link again and asked them to please click on the new meeting link below, or the new webinar link. I'll also check my contacts to see if I have their phone numbers here. We used to have it on our Access database, which we haven't been able to get into for months. So let's see. I just got an email from Stephanie. Let's see. She's trying to log in. It keeps making her an attendee. I'll let her know that I'll promote her. And then I emailed Matt Adams, our other admin, because he should be able to send me Martin Williams' phone number so I can try and call him. And Stephanie said she tried to get in, but she was just an attendee. And I told her to log back in and that I would promote her to a panelist.
I have Martin's phone number. I'm gonna call him and tell him to check his email.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Hello, Stephanie, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great.
I just promoted Stephanie to a panelist.
There we go. Great.
Thanks, Stephanie.
And we're back.
That was kind of backwards. Normally I make you all panelists, but since there was a big rush, it was backwards.
No worries. I'm here.
We're waiting on a few more committee members to come back on. So thank you, everyone, for your patience. Thank you for your help, Luis and Dag also.
Louisa, I have Phil Spiegel. He's in the meeting and he can't see himself, and I don't see him showing as a panelist or an attendee, Phil Spiegel.
I'm not seeing him on the list.
I wonder if he followed a different link, perhaps an old link. Louisa, you refreshed you put the new link on the website, right?
I did.
Okay.
Phil, are you using the
And he also, but Philip also received the link through an email, correct?
He did. He said that he couldn't see himself, but he could see and hear everyone else. And he's not showing up as a panelist or an attendee. And he's tried it 2 or 3 times.
That's the same thing that happened to me. He probably has to be promoted to panelist status.
Well, when it happened to you, I saw you and I was trying to promote you, but Phil's not showing up at all.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry it wasn't successful. It took a couple tries for you to be promoted.
Sure. No worries.
And then I was on the phone with Phil, and then the call just disconnected. So I'll try to call him again.
Martin just joined in as a participant. If we could get him promoted, that would be great.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see myself.
You should show up in a second, Martin. I'm still
All
trying to
right.
get Phil Spiegel on. He can hear us and see us, but we cannot hear or see him.
Did he join from the web or did he join by phone?
From an iPad. Did you do it from the email that I sent you, the most recent email? Sent at 12:37, yeah. Well, it should be. Let me send it to you again, and then you can click on it. Let's see. Okay, thank you. Okay, I sent it to you again. So you click the link that says, please click the link below to join the webinar.
This is Martin. Have you guys ever used the security features that the host has to freeze the webinar and then eliminate people you want to eliminate?
Well, the thing was, Martin, is that it was in the Q&A. Some people, we got sort of hacked in the Q&A and they were putting things in the Q&A, and I'm not sure if there's a way to disable the Q&A during a meeting, during a webinar.
We'll make sure next time when we set it up that hopefully we can have any of those things disabled that we don't need to use, so that hopefully we can avoid that in the future.
Phil has tried for the third time to get in and he can see all of us and hear us, but we can't see or hear him. Should I just? Well, what I would like to propose is having him on my speakerphone. Would that be acceptable?
Is he logged in under his name, Philip?
It's not showing up as an attendee or as a panelist. There's no Philip showing up. Phil, could you be, oh, you know what? You're under Jan O'Donnell, aren't you? No, that's okay. Is it okay if he's under his wife's name?
You can change it once he gets on.
Okay.
So once you admit him, and then he can, you may need to enable his ability to change his name, but
I'm gonna rename right now. Let's.
Because it actually didn't give me the option of changing it.
Okay, you should be able to, let's see.
Okay, now it has my name. Let's see. Do you want me to re-sign in?
No, you're good now. Let me just put the camera on. Let's see. It's not letting me click the camera. Let's see. You might have to start your video.
Oh, here, start video. Now it keeps putting a line. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there
Now
you
that's
go.
it.
Yeah, I see.
There we go. That did it.
And Stephanie,
Yeah.
you might, okay, sorry.
All right, it looks like we're all back. Thanks everyone for your patience, and thank you to the staff for all your hard work to getting us back up and going. So we'll continue on with the agenda. We were just starting the business section and going on to the discussion of the benefits of continuing remote versus in-person LAP groups. Michelle had given a very short presentation on that before we were interrupted, so I'll let you continue with your presentation of the topic.
Thanks. I will just go right into feedback that I got from the group facilitators and the participants. And like I said, I have a lot of feedback here, but I made it more concise. And then again, I went through and highlighted things. But if you want to hear more, if you feel like you need to hear more voices from participants or group facilitators, let me know and I can read more. But the group facilitators, mostly like the virtual groups, group facilitators wrote that my relationship with the participants was unchanged or better. One of them, obviously the San Francisco group facilitator, wrote, when I worked out of the office that I had in San Francisco, it was a big challenge for people to get there and be on time due to parking issues, traffic, and BART delays. And now participants are more consistent in their attendance. A couple of the group facilitators wrote that attendance has improved with the Zoom meetings. One group facilitator wrote, I've been pleasantly surprised at how successful virtual meetings have been. I had previously thought that people wouldn't share as deeply, but have actually found the opposite to be true. Some participants' attendance has improved significantly due to not having to battle traffic, find transportation to group for those that have lost license, can't afford cars, etc. And participants don't have to get off work early. That person also in a separate email wrote about people with hearing difficulties. Anybody with even a slight hearing difficulty has a hard time. I think she was just realizing how much people read lips and can understand what people are saying by watching their facial expressions, and have a hard time now doing that in person because people are wearing masks. And so
That's yeah, that's right.
Participants who previously met in person but transitioned to virtual still believe they're receiving the same quality of care and experience. Those participants who have only done virtual feel connected to their peers and like the groups. When I brought up the possibility of a hybrid model, everyone saw the benefit of having the opportunity to meet in person in order to strengthen relationships and prefer to do so once monthly. So this group facilitator, I have the tallies of, I'd asked them to give me the number of people who wanted virtual or go back to in-person or no preference. And then I think 2 of the group facilitators added in this other idea of hybrid. So overall with the group facilitators, they either all preferred remote or no preference. One of them said, thoughtfully made no preference with a lean toward online. None of them preferred in-person. Participants, 74 preferred the virtual remote groups, 4 who replied preferred in-person, 2 had no preference, and 6 of them in the group that offered it voted for hybrid. And then another group facilitator said that her people who had said they preferred remote also would like a hybrid. 13 of those would also like a hybrid. So that's most of the group facilitator. Oh, and so another group facilitator also actually wrote, where did I put it? So these are 2 interesting points. As I mentioned at the beginning of his email, I don't think anyone knows how much influence the remote experience will have on the culture. Although I suspect many will come to realize that we didn't really have to meet in person, like our old meetings, like we did, he pointed out, for the evaluation committees we used to, and now we've been doing our CRT meetings without being in person for many tasks. And that the remote groups could open the possibility for all women or all men's groups, which then of course got me thinking about all kinds of other like specific groups that we could do when we wouldn't be able to have them in only one site in person, but we could pull people from all over the state. So for the participants, several participants expressed concerns about COVID for at least another year with the expectation that new variants will surface. So I think some of them had their responses wanting virtual groups colored by that they don't think that we're even close to the point of thinking about doing anything in person yet. This person wrote, I feel more comfortable during remote meetings. I feel more able to be open. I do not feel insecure when speaking like I often do when speaking at in-person group settings. This person wrote, this person started as virtual, so never had the in-person experience. I consider it to be a privilege to be in LAP, and I look forward to our virtual meetings. I wonder if that would change if I had the added stress of having to travel to in-person meetings and make arrangements for a longer absence from my family responsibilities. I've liked this person. I edited out some of the things that had already been mentioned, but he or she, I don't know, made a list. I prefer remote. The advantages of remote are can dress however I like. Tech is easy to use and confidential. No Zoom bombs, which till today I hadn't considered seriously. The disadvantages are no free coffee. Yeah, and then the next person wrote. So we don't give free coffee at our lab groups, so we probably didn't get free coffee usually anyhow, but maybe at AA meetings. This person wrote, the relationship with the group facilitator has improved. There's no disadvantages to remote meetings. My sobriety and program is just as strong in remote meetings. My relationship has not changed going to remote meetings from in-person, and I still feel like I'm learning and growing even in a remote setting. Somebody wrote, I don't have reliable transportation to a regular in-person meetings. And then the last one I'll read, over 3 years, I missed 12 plus or minus meetings, which extended my lap graduation for 3 months. I can honestly say that 80% of those missed meetings were because the extra 1 hour associated with the drive to the meeting, then home, caused my lap meeting to interfere with another commitment. So those are the people that preferred in-person. There were fewer, obviously, comments of people who preferred virtual. There were fewer comments of people who preferred in-person because fewer people wanted that. But some people wrote more intimate, more engaged, more commitment. Remote seems less personal with the group facilitator. This person outlined some pros and cons that were similar to the others, but ended with, you can get a better sense of someone's pain or difficulties in person that you can't always get over Zoom. Sometimes it's easier to talk to people than to a computer screen. There are no internet or Wi-Fi difficulties in person. In-person sessions have less interruption. Eventually, overall, I prefer in person. I like being with the people. So that's it. And then there was a little, so most people weren't given the option of hybrid. There were some ideas about hybrid groups of either doing, I'm not exactly sure how it worked out, but either having the groups available in person and then people could either show up in person or log in virtually, or having the groups be a ratio of 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. So like having the first group of the month be in person and then the rest be virtual or something like that. So that's the feedback I got. Justin, you want to do just like a discussion, or if people have questions about the kind of responses I got, I can try and answer those.
Yeah, let's we can open up to some questions. I'll leave mine for last, but if people have other committee members have questions, please voice them now.
Hey, what if you have an opinion rather than a question?
Absolutely
Mike?
voice it.
Huh?
Absolutely want to hear the opinions too.
Yeah, okay, my opinion is that from a lot of different groups, my experience has been there are two distinct populations that are never going to change their minds. There are people who prefer the Zoom, and there are people who think the Zoom is terrible and you're missing something and it has to be in person. So my feeling is, maybe a hybrid could be a compromise. But I just wanted to throw out there that my belief is that the pro-Zoom people and the pro-live people are set in their ways and are unlikely to change, if that's helpful.
So you're saying we can never make everyone happy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Michelle, do the group facilitators use Zoom, or do they use other software for?
Yeah, I actually think it's HIPAA compliant software. It's not Zoom, but they use GoToMeeting, and I think there's another platform some of them use.
You got to remember you're dealing with people who are primarily alcoholics, so you're never going to make them all happy. But a lot of AA meetings and NA meetings and so on now, I mean, they're all virtual, virtually all virtual. And I actually have suggested hybrid meetings to some of my friends who want to start having in-person meetings. And I don't think we're there yet. Although some people think that in California, we do have herd immunity now because so many people have vaccinated. I don't agree with that. I still think we have to be careful. But I agree with what Martin said. You're never going to make everybody happy. That's why I think ultimately a hybrid meeting might be a very good alternative.
If I could just mention something. I've been leading completely Zoom groups now for about 1.5 years through NAMI because we haven't had any choice. Those groups have been absolutely critical in allowing people with mental illness to access peer support. And what we've seen is a massive upsurge in people who are more willing to discuss because they were isolated. They were afraid to come out to in-person groups. Our groups have almost doubled in capacity. That being said, we certainly have had people say, I prefer in-person groups because of the eye-to-eye, face-to-face therapeutic relationship. And you're right, you're not going to make everyone happy. But I would imagine that a hybrid group, or even a hybrid system where you have support groups that are completely online, support groups that are completely in person, and some variation thereof, would be the best of all situations. I can tell you that we certainly have heard in Southern California that some of our mental health folks who are unable to access in-person groups, who are disabled, isolated, who are on oxygen, prefer online groups.
That would make sense.
And this is Stephanie. As you all know, I am, not only do I have a law degree, but I'm also a board certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And I feedback from the clients that I see, they're telling me that they actually enjoy seeing a provider via telehealth or telepsych. And I'm talking to some of my therapist colleagues, and they're saying the feedback that they're getting from clients is pretty much the same. And to your point, Kelly, due to isolation, I think people are more willing to interact and be more vocal about their true feelings via video conference, whether it's Zoom or some other HIPAA compliant software.
I was wondering if there was any data out there to whether one platform over the other produces better outcomes for the participants. Because we kind of have that issue here with our experts not being able to go into the jail to see our clients, and they've been wanting to do interviews over like a WebEx or a video type feed. And there is some data and studies out there that I'm not sure, you know, the interview is as good as it could be if it's in person. So I'm just wondering if any of, especially the healthcare professionals here, have seen any studies or know any data that suggests that one is better than the other.
I haven't seen any, but I do know that there are certain platforms that are used frequently by healthcare professionals. And I don't want to endorse any particular one, but one of them that I'm thinking of is one called DoxyMe, and it's free. It's free. The client can log in from their phone, but then there's other issues with that, or from the comfort of their home. And I think that is also another option to be able to interact with the client.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's been great. I just would like, it would be more, I'd like to know if clients may be delayed in getting treatment that they need because there's a difference if you're online versus in person. I think it's new and maybe there's not a lot out there, but that was on my mind.
I wonder if Patrick Krill has any data on this. He's a great data collector.
He is, for sure.
That would be interesting. See what I can contact him and see what we can find out, what he has.
Yeah.
Stephanie mentioned the free platform. One of the things that none of the group facilitators brought up, which surprised me a little, was finances. They're the ones who have to rent the office space. So I wonder how, I do believe they're being honest. I don't think they're saying they prefer virtual groups just so that they don't have to rent the office space. But if we were to say something like a hybrid group, that seems to me, without having asked them, like it would be challenging for them to be renting an office space that would only be used once a month. Maybe it could open other like options for temporary office spaces, but still like that seems to be kind of a stumbling block for either the hybrid of having people have the option to come or not come if you end up with only one or two people showing up in person, or the group facilitator is the only one there in person and everybody else ends up plugging in, or of course the once a month thing. But I was surprised that when we started, a lot of the group facilitator, a lot of us, staff, everybody thought that there would be more of a downside to being virtual than there seems to be. One of the things that people mention a lot is you can't smell in the group. And if they're suspecting somebody might have been drinking, they can't smell alcohol on them. And there have been a few times maybe it would have, group facilitators would have found that to be useful, but it doesn't seem to be an overriding concern anymore that I've been hearing about, at least.
Michelle, I emailed you a question.
Okay, take a look. Yeah, it looks like one of the other bar representatives wanted to make a comment about this. I guess, Justin, that would be up to you. Would that be considered public comment, or is that acceptable?
I guess we could take some public comment for the folks who weren't here with us in the beginning.
There he is.
Particularly unless they'd like to make it part of their presentation as a recommendation, they could do that too. But it would seem appropriate at this time to include our friends at the other bar to chime in on this, because they do have some, I'm assuming they do have quite a bit of experience on the success or lack of success of virtual meetings. Is that Mr. Mann?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, David, you're muted still. Is he able to unmute himself or just, oh, there we go.
Hey, hi, everybody. Yeah, I should have and could have waited, but I'm curious as to whether there's a hard and fast rule as to whether people have to keep their video on or not, because it seems to me that is a huge variable, and a way for people to hide. And I
I
wondered if
can't
that-
hear him at all. Can you guys?
I can,
Yes.
but I had to turn my volume way up.
David, can you speak up?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to throw a big kink in the works. This could have waited, but I found myself dying of curiosity as to whether there's a rule about people keeping their video turned on during the Zoom LAP meetings.
I did not ask that specifically if they're all doing that uniform. I assume that they are because they generally aren't letting people do that, except I know that there are occasions when people have had to just call in by phone. And so then they don't have video on.
Okay. All right. Well, I will recede into my background spot again. Thanks.
I think that's actually a very good point.
So I know that group facilitators have asked me every once in a while, no one can tell the future, but they want to know what's happening because they want to be able to plan for their rental spaces and offices and finance. And it seems to me like we're not quite at the point yet of saying that it would be even an option to go back in person. So, so I will leave that to the committee if you want to be able to think about it more, or vote on it, whatever you choose.
I think that, well, I wanted to make two comments. One, it seems like the virtual option is actually reducing barriers to getting access to the services. And that is a very positive thing. Having been a participant, knowing that you need to get off work at 5:30 to, go wherever, get a ride if you don't have a license, worry about your employer knowing about where you're going or why you're not billing. I mean, those are all things that could be or are probably being eased by the virtual space. But I also do want to acknowledge that what Tracy brought up was that I want to make sure that the services that are being provided and the benefits of the program are not being put at jeopardy by virtue of going virtual. So until we get real data on that, that's kind of just an anecdote out there. And then in terms of making a decision, I think until we actually have the opportunity to go back in person, I don't think that's an option yet. I think it would be best for us to continue to think about it. If we can gather some data, I know that in the report, we didn't have any in your report, Michelle. There were no terminations from the program. Is that right? So
in 2020, there were not.
Right. So at least from that perspective, there wasn't some abnormal change in at least the effectiveness of the program to retain participants. So at least people weren't dropping off by virtue of being virtual. So I think that's positive. But if anyone can think of any metrics that we can track over the next few months before we're actually able to go back in person, that would lean one way or another, I think we should continue to think about it until we actually are put in a position to make a decision. But it's really good that we're thinking about this now.
I have one metric. I may have overlooked it in the report. Are we tracking to see where the participants are regionally located? Because I know previously there was some discussion about improving access, particularly among those who are in more rural communities. And I think with utilization of telehealth, that can be a benefit. So are we tracking that information in terms of geographical location?
We informally do. It doesn't show up on any of our regular reports. One of the things actually that has been expanding our service is that we used to not be able to have out-of-state participants, like people who are either bar applicants in California or law students from California, but moved to another state, which happened a lot during this because we had law students who had been attending school here and then went back home because they're socially isolating and they couldn't continue school in the same way. So they went back to whatever city they came from, and they were able to continue going to their lab groups, which they wouldn't have been able to do if they were in person. And same thing with some practicing attorneys who have moved out of state. We've had them, we used to have to go basically recreate a program that we would do here in whatever city they are. So either if they had another state had a similar lab and had groups, we would have them go to that state's LAP or find a private therapist who runs a support group, or an individual therapist if we couldn't find that, if somebody else who has eyes on them once a week who we can communicate with, like our group facilitators would. Now we're able to have those people go to our lab groups, which has been, I think that's been really excellent.
Okay, that's only one of the things I would just recommend. Maybe like tracking where the participants are located. So then later on, because I see that we have quarterly metrics or analytics, we can say, well, we improved access among those, just hypothetically speaking, in rural communities by 15% or something like that, if we have baseline data.
Okay.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know if you need this, but I just found a study that had been emailed to me showing that telehealth was equivalent to face-to-face in treating a population of veterans at the VA. I could forward it to Michelle because I have your email.
Right, and then if the rest of the committee is interested, we can BCC all of you and send it out.
Definitely. I'll also email you some information too, because even in healthcare, it shows that telehealth services are equivalent to in-person, face-to-face services.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, we don't have any local psychiatrists down here in Imperial County. Everything is through telehealth. Our entire psychiatric services are all done through telehealth.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's that way at Kaiser now too, almost entirely.
Mm.
And even though I'm in LA, I did a locums assignment as a psych nurse practitioner up in, I'm not going to say the county, but it's up in Northern California in a rural community that would otherwise have no access or reduced access to mental health services, just on a side note.
Yeah, I want to say I'm a serious true believer. I do evaluations as a psychologist and testimony, and this past year has been great for me. I've evaluated people in rural counties in California that would have taken me 4 or 5 hours to drive to. I'm licensed in other states. I've done evaluations. I've testified. So I'm a true believer. I think this is so efficient, and transportation is so 20th century.
I think these are all really good, helpful tips of information. If we could pass along those reports and articles that were mentioned and share it with the group, I think that would be very helpful as we continue to think about the topic. As you know, we approach a point where we need to make a decision on it. But I'm glad that this was on our agenda. So I want to be mindful of our time and our with our disruption. Did anyone else have anything to say on this topic, or are we ready to move on to the next one? Seeing none. So let's go to the Attorney Supervision and Assistance Redesign Project, and that's Lori.
So this will be pretty brief. Our Attorney Supervision and Assistance Redesign Project, if you recall, is the bar's effort to revamp the way that the respondents who are on probation interact with their probation case specialists. And we're trying to incorporate more of the working with the respondents and trying to provide services to help them through their probation so that hopefully they won't recidivate and get back into trouble again. And along with that, our goal is to, at some point, hopefully look into creating a collaborative court, maybe to replace what our current alternative discipline program is, to help those respondents who are going through the discipline system who have mental health and substance use issues. But we are not at that point yet. So really, we still are laying the groundwork for our program that will handle just anyone who's on probation through the discipline system. And we've been making some good strides in our training plan. We're going to be implementing some training in the next few months, including a training through a group called Arbinger, which is all about outward mindset and trying to really look at something from somebody else's perspective. And also we're going to get motivational interview training for our probation case specialists so that they can work better with the respondents as they start up their probation. And I think all of that will really help us to perhaps identify those people who might have issues that they need to be referred to LAP. And it didn't come out during the discipline side, so that we'll have more information and can reach out to them as they go through their probation. So as we have more that really affects the LAP side, we of course will report to you, but that's just a brief summary of what we've been working on so far for now. Thank you. Any questions?
Looks like there are no questions to Lori. So we'll move on to item C, submission to the legislature of the LAP 2020 annual report. That's Michelle.
I can make this one quick too, because you all have the link to the report there. You know, I have second graders, so I'm not going to read it out loud to you because you can read it to yourself. But I do want to point out a couple of things that I told you I would highlight in terms of statistics that I have. On page 3, it talks about our effective intervention and social distancing and how we handled that, which we just talked about, but it highlights the transition assistance service numbers that skyrocketed last year. You know, we had a dip in the spring last year, like everybody did, and actually DAG forwarded me an article that a couple of the other LAPs had around the country had been interviewed for, and they were seeing dips of 20, 22, 25% last spring and beginning of the summer, because people were really just contracting, concerned about finances and not reaching out for help. And as you saw in here, we had a dip in our enrollment last year too. It was only 14%, so maybe compared to other states, not so bad. But our transition assistance service, which is the 2 free career counseling and 2 free individual counseling, increased 95%, which I think showed that even though people, it was free, so those concerned about finances could still take advantage of it, and people were looking for like quick, brief interventions. And as we mentioned earlier, that's still kept up. So this year, the new cases we've gotten, Lita talked about all of the outreach that she did. And so you know that we've been getting more calls. Today, well, it's not to today's date actually, but about a week and a half ago when I got those numbers, we had already had 49 intakes for this year, for 2021. And last year at this time, up to the same date, we were only at 30. So this year we're really roaring ahead, and hopefully we'll be able to reach that mark by the end of the year of increasing, definitely from 2021 and maybe even back up to the 2019 numbers. And you know, I'll point out what was different from last year. We did not have our intakes divided in mandatory and voluntary for the 2019 report. Now you have a chart on that. Many more people came in. It was 58 to 83. So in the terms of numbers of voluntary versus mandatory, we have more people coming in on the voluntary side. So those who just want the support, they're not here for discipline, they're not here for moral character. Although a lot of them, I think, have that in mind, that one day there will be a problem with moral character or with discipline. We've got a lot of people coming in on the voluntary side, and the new chart about the transition assistance service. So I think that was, oh yes, I did want to mention that. So the case, the reason we have referrals on here is we always want to look to see where our cases are coming from, if it's from the outreach, if people are hearing about it, if they're coming in for admissions. And you'll see on here that the number of people who came in for ADP in 2020 was 1%. There was actually one person, I think, looking in the numbers, who at intake identified as here for ADP. Obviously, that is not the only person who came in for ADP. We had lots of people. So that's something we're going to work on for 2021, is finding a better way to identify and track those people who are here for discipline purposes, even though at the moment that they come in for our intakes, which is where we get this data from, is at their initial phone intake, They may not yet be in ADP, but we know a lot more people than that, and that's not reflected on here. And again, the large majority, 81% of participants came with a substance use disorder, either on its own or also co-occurring. So again, we have a lot of people here who are dealing with substance use issues, which should not be a surprise to anyone on this call. And then in terms of expenditures on the last page, I just want to point out that 2020 was the year we had our fee holiday, so we were not collecting any new monies, and we made it through the whole fee holiday year. Still have some reserves, but as Lita knows, we didn't use any of our almost any of our travel money that had been budgeted because we had expected lots more travel. So that was also a huge savings for us. And I'll end it there so the other bar has lots of time for their report.
Before we move to that, any questions for Michelle on the annual report?
I really like what I see in the report. There's a lot of, work being done and a lot of information here that is really, really making me happy. Yeah.
I agree. It was very well done. A lot of good work and success, a lot of improvement. It's bravo.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to the rest of the staff too. Everybody's been working so hard.
Yeah.
And we should be congratulating ourselves too, because we are on the oversight committee.
That's right.
Well, seeing no other comments, I just want to thank Michelle and the rest of the LAP staff for their really hard work over the past year. It's been challenging, but we're roaring forward. Sounds like we're getting increased participation. We're reaching out to many more people than we have in the past. So it's just really promising, and want to thank, please pass, from me and from the rest of the committee members, a special thanks to everyone who's worked on it and on the report. Okay, so item D, submission to the State Bar of the other bar 2020 annual report. And I think we had David Mann was here. I'm not sure if he's presenting on this or someone else, but we can move to that item.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
This is Mike
Yes.
Lazo. I'm currently serving as president of the other bar. I also hopefully have Greg Dorst and David Mann joining me, the consultants for the other bar. Thank you guys for inviting us to join you today. I will hopefully be able to address any questions you have about the administrative portion of our report, and I will defer to both David and Greg to address any questions you may have about the functions of the other bar, which I'm sure you are aware this last year was obviously a year that was not expected. I believe the other bar rose to the occasion though. At first, we anticipated a drop off, and we anticipated this was going to be an extremely challenging year, having to not be able to meet like we were used to. As you may be aware, we have meetings up and down the state, and we had to turn to a virtual option. I'm pleased to announce that we have at this time over 23 virtual meetings weekly. And from there, I will probably turn it over to Greg and David. They are better able to explain all that we've been doing this past year. They are our boots on the floor, and they really do a ton of great work for us. And I know many of you probably have worked with them, both with the LAP and with the California Lawyers Association, the Health and Wellness Committee. So I will turn it over to Greg or David at this point.
Greg, take it away.
I'm Greg Dorst. Can each of you hear me? I'm unmuted. Super. Fantastic. Well, we are a peer support group, and we are available by telephone, we're available by email, we're available by direct contact, as we do a lot of not only outreach, but networking when we're able to do so. We have as Mike indicated, 23 virtual meetings that go on right now per week. But we also, when we're in person, we do 30 meetings throughout the state, and we attract a lot of people who want to remain completely confidential. They oftentimes get a hold of us when they're feeling the guilt and shame of their conduct, and they don't want anybody else to know. And so they're not forced into us through some sort of disciplinary procedure, although they may eventually face that procedure. We do have some really interesting first contact availability. And so, I think that we get people when they're just kind of testing out their issues of alcoholism, drug addiction, or mental health. And so we get a ton of calls. We can marshal them into meetings. We can help them find support with outpatient or residential programs. We can refer them to the LAP program, which we do all of these very, very often. And sometimes it's a warm transfer. I mean, we'll go out and we'll meet them and take them to wherever they need to go to find the support that will help to save their life or careers. So we do what the recovery community oftentimes calls 12-step work, which is when there's a problem, we go out and serve them directly. I can't tell you how many times David and myself over the course of the last 15 or so years, we've been doing this for a long time, have hopped in the car to go to talk to a person who is absolutely out of control, to find them, first of all, to meet with a judge and a lawyer in the courtroom because the judge has called us concerned about the conduct of the lawyer. So we'll have a brief intervention even in the judge's chambers, or to provide just a confidential resource any way we can over a cup of coffee, a lunch, or something that will allow us to do this or get it started. Both David and I are former lawyers who are in recovery ourselves, who have been doing this for a couple of decades. And so we have some gravitas in the community. I mean, we've been there. We know the problems that can exist with lawyers in the profession, and we know that there's a place to go or places to go that can help them to live life without discord. Nowadays it's tough, especially during this COVID time. We've learned a lot about ourselves. We've learned that we have the ability, the other bar that is, to step up and do the things that need to be done in an emergency situation. And I think our virtual groups have been incredibly successful. Many of the things that you guys have talked about are things that we've noticed. Our groups are larger. They're getting larger. More people are joining. Word of mouth is fabulous. We are, I think, connecting in a way that we were unable to connect before. People used to be a little bit concerned about going to a meeting where they wouldn't know anybody. They've never been to that location before. They don't know what to expect, but they can slip into a virtual meeting really easily without the kind of stress and anxiety that might exist in a first meeting in person. And so that's really been, it's really been good. We have been able to set up guidelines for the sharing. The confidentiality issue is always there, and we get deep and we get introspective, and I think we do a lot of good work. There is, however, a demand for in-person conferences, because we do conferences every year and men's and women's retreats for people who are in the other bar sphere. And that includes people who have 1 day of sobriety or no sobriety, all the way up through 40 or 50 years. We are a community of support. We help each other to stay sober 1 day at a time, 1 moment at a time, whatever is necessary, and provide accountability through a peer relationship. So the conferences and the retreats are a different animal. We really have a desire to meet with one another in those settings. So we're never going to, not do an in-person conference or an in-person retreat. Now the meetings are a different story. We'll have to talk about how we do those meetings, because we have great support for these individual group meetings, but the conferences are different, and people seem to like the in-person conferences and retreats. So we're always going to be doing that. And that's another feature also of being able to connect some of the newer individuals in recovery to old-time sobriety in the legal profession, because there is some real trepidation about practicing law sober. And you need the support of people who've been doing this for a long time. There are tricks to the trade, because alcohol is a big one when it comes to practicing law. It's part of the culture, and trying to navigate, what the firm does with other lawyers, what the Friday night, Saturday night, crew do out on the bar circuit, or when you're just out to lunch with the firm and everybody's having a glass of wine. What do you do? So the older people like myself, like David, like Mike as well, the president, help a lot in terms of how to handle the social situations and the emotional issues that arise. So it's been a challenging year. We have been required to do most of our MCLEs, and I do about 75 a year myself. David does about the same number. We've been required to do them virtually. I think that people like them, but they're certainly not as good from my perspective as the live presentations, because we like the interaction. We love to be able to receive questions on the fly and to have discussions in some of these presentations, and we don't get that virtually, which is something that I miss greatly. But between the two of us and a few other people in the other bar, we do close to 200 presentations a year, and it's pretty spectacular, actually, the number of people we actually address and connect with, and I think that that's really important. I'm on the wellness committee with the CLA Wellness Committee with Michelle, and like she said early on, we're proud to be able to present together on May 5th on just how we can and do work together in the recovery community in law, the LAP program as well as the other bar, and how we complement each other, because we don't do the same things. But what each of us does is incredibly necessary in the recovery process. There's a continuum of care, and we provide latter stage continuum of care through peer support and also through being a space where people who are new in recovery and also in the LAP program can find sponsorship. In the 12-step program community can find support and friendship. One of the hallmarks of what it is we deal with is loneliness, is separation, is isolation. And the peer support that we offer and have offered last year, even virtually, I think has been life-saving. So we have a whole range of things that we do. And, the nice thing about what it is that we do is that we're able to morph into what's necessary in the moment. We can hop in the car, we can hop on a plane, we can do whatever is necessary in order to intervene, brief interventions or even, more formal interventions. So that's essentially what David and I do. And I'm always open for questions. I also have written many articles which are posted on the California Lawyers Association Wellness Committee board. So I've got a whole range of things that I do. And I know that David is always available for any contact as well in any way. So that's what I've got. If you have any questions, please, I'm quite willing to answer them.
David,
Well,
I might as well throw in my 2 cents before people throw out questions if there are any. I just wanted to say that a lot of what I have experienced and what our organization has experienced this year is reflected in what I've heard you all say. At first, it seemed like this unqualified disaster that was going to just tie us up in everything we try to do. And then surprisingly, in many ways, it made us more effective, or at least gave us another way of going about what we do. And so, I answer the hotline, and very quickly when I realize that somebody probably needs to get sober, and one of the best ways to do it is to go to meetings, I typically, suggest that they go to another bar meeting. And and initially when that would happen this year, I would start off saying to them and to myself, oh, unfortunately, normally I tell you to go to another bar meeting, but and then I realized, oh my gosh, now they don't have to find one near them. They don't have to get in a car and drive there, and they can overcome their trepidation and paralyzation about their anonymity by staying anonymous. So I say, you know what, I'm going to send you our Zoom list. We have 23 other bar meetings. You can go to one in Sacramento or San Diego tonight. You can kill your video and you don't have to show your face. You can use a pseudonym and go in as John Doe and to be a fly on the wall for your first meeting. And the response to that is amazing. People are so much more willing to go to that first meeting under those circumstances. And then they ended up continuing to go, the meetings that we have, as a general rule, I would say every meeting that I used to, in real life, go to 6 a week myself, and do a lot of driving to do it. And I know how many people typically attended each of them. And, if it was 21 people or so on average, now it's 38. It's up 40% across the board. And people who are on our email list and have moved away, and we've got people who are attending from Seattle, Washington, from Thailand, coming back, and a lot of law students and a lot of newcomers. So it's counterintuitively been a good thing, really, for our ability to serve the community. And the other thing I think that's happened is people are stuck at home, they're stuck with their spouse and their kids, and it's this little petri dish for all the problems that they were able to hide before. And spouses are finding out how much their spouse is drinking because they can't keep it a secret anymore. And then the reluctance to engage in treatment because of time constraints has been removed. People are willing to go to an outpatient program because they don't have to show up at an office every day. And some of them have been more willing to go to a 28-day rehab because they can kind of, for quote unquote, get away with it more easily than before. So it's been a sort of a statistically stellar year for recovery from our point of view. And in terms of the events that we put out, for a while, our main outreach is always the MCLEs, and it's a blessing to us that it's a required unit because that gets us in front of so many people every year. And I can't tell you how many times after a well-attended one, I'll get 2 or 3 calls from people literally asking for help for a colleague or for themselves. But at first that dried up, but then all of a sudden it went crazy. And I've probably done more CLEs this year than any other year. And it's cheaper. People don't have to travel. They don't have to rent hotels. They can attend from their dining room. And a lot of places I've noticed, like public defenders' offices and city attorneys' offices, have decided to take advantage of the extra time that's available with the mostly shutdown of the courts to really up their training programs. The San Francisco Public Defender's Office, for instance, is doing 2 trainings a week. Well, when people are doing a lot more trainings, then they end up doing a lot more CLEs, and we get more calls to do those. And they, in turn, also have better attendance than they used to get. I'm looking at a webinar screen and seeing that there's 310 people, watching a CLE. It's been amazing. And then in terms of our other bar sponsored annual events, it's been similarly good because I've got a list of speakers over the years who I call my A-list speakers. We typically have enough money in our budget to pay one kind of rock star speaker to show up and be our keynote at one of these events. And I've been able to, we put on our fall event, and I called up 4 or 5 of these keynote speakers and got them all to do a presentation pro bono. And they're zooming in from Maine and Alabama and all over the place and doing it for free. So the quality of what we've been able to present has been fantastic. And we did one in the fall. We did one in January. Attendance has tripled what it usually was. And right now I'm planning putting the final touches on our spring networking, which is April 24th. So, it's counterintuitively been kind of a good year for us. And I don't see that changing. I was interested to hear all the discussion amongst you about the pros and cons of virtual versus real meetings and what you're contemplating moving forward, because that's certainly come up. And we've had the same experience. People initially disliked the virtual experience, and many of them have come around to where they love it. And there's absolutely going to be a demand that we present hybrid meetings. Everybody's going to want to be able to keep going without having to get in their car. So we're gearing up for the challenge of figuring out the technology behind offering our meetings that way. But it's been a good year, and I will say that when I read your annual report, I get a little bit envious of what you're all able to do with the resources you have available. Having access to that state bar mailing list and being able to send out 200,000 emails, that's my dream, and so in any way that we can, I hesitate to use the word collaborate, because we have to maintain our autonomy from the state bar, and I'm sure that a mutual realization. But Michelle and I have known each other for quite some time, and one of the things we talked about a year ago was our priority, trying to reach more law students, more young lawyers, and trying to do that by using more social media. And clearly that's been going on with the LAP with a lot of success. So I'm hoping that we can take what you've been doing and model some of our own activities going forward to replicate some of that. So that's about what I have to say. And as Greg mentioned, certainly if you guys have questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
So we have, and thank you, Mike, Greg, and David for your presentation and your continued work. Just as a side note, I wouldn't have gotten to LAP without the other bar. So I have a personal, owe a lot to the other bar. I'll just leave it at that. Are there any questions by the committee members for either Mike, David, or Greg about the report about the other bar? We have about 4 minutes. Well, seeing none, thank you again, folks from the other bar. That closes that item. There are no other items on the agenda. So at this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's, I think we can do this by consent. Does anyone object to adjourning the meeting? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. It's great to see you all. Hopefully we'll get to be in person sometime soon.
That would be nice. Congratulations, new dad.
You'll see it this year.
Thank
You'll
you.
see it this year.
Congratulations, Justin.
Oh, thank you, everyone. It's good to
Yes,
see you.
congratulations. That's great.
Have a good weekend, and we'll see you virtually very soon.
What is her name?
Eva.
Eva. Very nice. Beautiful. Great.
Thank you.
All the best.
I'll send a picture to
Good.
Michelle or Jennifer,
Please.
and Maybe I
Yeah.
can BCC that around.
That'd be nice.
Great.
Good.
All
All right.
I'll do that.
All right.
Bye, take
Be
care.
well.
Everyone,
Okay,
Bye,
Be
Bye-bye.
safe,
bye-bye.
Thank
everybody.
you, Justin.
Stay
Thank you.
safe.
Hey, Jennifer, I just wanted to check in and make sure you got my Form 700.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right.
Okay, take care.
All right. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.